Old Dominion coming to Dowdy Ficklin Stadium, and here to talk about it is Harry Minium. He joins us on the Pirate Radio Live Line, senior executive writer at Old Dominion for athletics. Harry, welcome back to Pirate Radio. How you doing?
It's great to be here. As I say, every time I come on this network, my grandmother graduated from ECU back when it was ECTC with a nursing degree. All kinds of family members have been there. I went to East Carolina football games when I was an undergraduate at ODU, so it kind of feels like home to me.
That's great. And Harry, we've had you on before. I believe last time we spoke to you, you were working with the Virginian Pilot, which you did for years, and since then are now a part of the university, correct?
Yes, I worked at the Pilot for 39 years, most of those years in sports, and left the Pilot, took a buyout like everyone else. You're getting out of journalism, and ODU was kind enough to hire me to cover both athletics and academics for their website, and I did that for 3 years, and then for the last year I've just been covering athletics. So I cover football, basketball, baseball, soccer, field hockey, everything for our sports webpage. And yes, it is the best job on the face of the earth. It's a great job. I love it.
Harry, you saw quite a season last year for the Monarchs, a tale of two seasons, right? The first half didn't go the way the Monarchs wanted it to go, and then a long winning streak to wrap up the regular season, which got you to a bowl game to face one of the American foes we see, and that was Tulsa. Lost that one 30-17, but what a turnaround for the Monarchs the second half of last season. What changed from the first half to the second half?
Well, let's look at it this way. They outscored Buffalo 27-0 in the second half and lose that game 35-34. They lose at UTEP on a late score 28-21. They lead Marshall and are in a position to clinch a victory, and there's an interception, and they lose in overtime 20-13. And then Western Kentucky just crushes them 43-20, and they're 1-6. And you know, Coach Ricky Ronnie, I know it's a big cliche. He just kept preaching to his players and preaching to the fans that, you know, we're not looking to win 5 games in a row. We're looking to win one game at a time, and they slowly did. They won a lot of close games and some that weren't close. They beat Charlotte, probably the last time we'll ever play Charlotte, which was a nice victory because I think we'd lost 3 in a row to them, 56-34 to finish 6-6. And I tell you, Tulsa was a really good team. That was a good football team, maybe the best team. I think they were better than Wake Forest, to tell you the truth. That was a good football team, you know, big guys, and so I believe they were 6-6. They were indeed the best 6-6 team in the country. So ODU finished 6-7, went to its first bowl game since 2016. There's, you know, we had some tough seasons. We had gone since going to the Bahamas Bowl in 2016. We'd gone 5-7, 4-8, 1-11, and then we did not play in 2021. Excuse me, in 2020. So it had been a long time since we'd seen a winner, and our season ticket sales just plummeted. We only sold about 7,200 last year. This year we're up close to 10,000, and we think we're going to. The stadium seats 22,000. We have to sell 14,600 season tickets to sell out. And we think we're going to sell out the stadium. So.
That's awesome to hear. Harry Minium joining us, and Harry, I look back. So this is the second football coach in ODU history, which is crazy to think about. Brian Bailey, a local sportscaster here, went to ODU and used to always joke that, you know, Bobby Wilder bought the footballs and all the first things they had there at ODU, and you kind of saw towards the end the losses pile up, but had a great career there at Old Dominion. So how did that transition go? Because you had a COVID year mixed in there. You had a rough start last year for Coach Ronnie, but certainly turned it around. So how about that transition, and how is the fan base right now behind Coach Ronnie there?
Well, the transition was remarkable. Ricky Ronnie, I hope we can hold on to him for a couple more years because he's rebuilt this program the right way. He's done it by recruiting. I mean, they've gone after. They're beating ACC teams for kids in this region. Something that I believe last year we signed 4 of the top 10 players in the Hampton Roads area. Something we'd never come close to doing before. They've just gone after the big boys, and they said, "Hey, you can come here. We play ACC teams. We play them at home, and You can play in your backyard, and they've done very well. The fans were disenchanted. I think the COVID year, COVID took a lot out of everyone. I think that's what's a lot of dysfunction we're seeing in our country is because of COVID. And so it was really tough. They're 1-6, and yet they won their last 5 in a row. That was just an amazing season to win 5 in a row.
ODU lost some close games last year at the beginning of the season, won those close games at the tail end of the season. And last time East Carolina and ODU got together, Harry, it was a close one up there in Norfolk. The Pirates won it 24-21. I remember at that time, and looking back on it, that was a 1-win season for Old Dominion. So, but at the time for East Carolina and Mike Houston, that really felt like a big win to beat a legitimate team on the road. This team Mike Houston has now is going to be a lot better than that one, and it looks like the team Old Dominion has this year is going to be a lot better than that team that met the Pirates in 2019.
We were that year. We were okay when the season began. Injuries and just with actually Old Dominion played a very good game against ECU. That was a great football game. As a matter of fact, all the games against ECU have just been great games and just fun to watch. And I think we're scheduled to play 6 or 8 times in the future. I hope that continues because we're only a little over 2 hours apart. We ought to be playing, but this team is going to be better than that team. But I've read a little about East Carolina. You guys are going to be really good. So that's going to be a big challenge for us to win in Greenville.
Harry Minium joining us. Harry, as we sit here this offseason, who are the guys you're going to look out for this fall on the offensive side of the ball? Who's going to make it go for Old Dominion this season?
Well, we've got 3 quarterbacks who are fighting it out. Hayden Wolf, he's about 6'4", I think, from Florida. Highly recruited quarterback. Started the last 6-7 games of the season last year and played really well. Although Ricky is not named the starter, I think it's going to take a really impressive fall camp performance to knock him out. I don't think I see that happening. DJ Mack, Norfolk kid who transferred from Central Florida, started the first 6 games last season. Acknowledges he did not have his best season. Looked better in spring practice. Looked a lot better. And then we've got Notre Dame transfer Brendan Clark, who is coming off a knee injury. Didn't play last season. And as Ricky said, sometimes coming off knee injuries is more mental than it is physical. I really love the way he's a little shorter than I thought he was going to be. He's not Hayden's height, but he runs well, he throws well, he's smart, he's a competitor. So, I think Hayden probably will start this fall, and I think Brendan at some point, and perhaps DJ, if he continues to improve, are going to push him, and we're just going to have to see. The 2 guys, there are 3 guys coming back on offense. Actually, there are a bunch of them. We've got a lot of good offensive players. It's your Blake Watson, rushed for a little over 1,100 yards last year. Elijah Davis, a backup, is back. He was injured. Elijah was a 3-star recruit out of Lynchburg. We got him away from a lot of big schools. We're looking for him to have a good season, and we've got Tariq Sims behind him. So we've got depth at running back. We've got 5 or 6 guys on the offensive line who started. We've lost Isaac Weaver, All-Conference USA. I don't think he made All-Conference USA, but then we all know what Conference USA was all about, so I'll just let that go. But I think he's going to wind up in an NFL camp. So we don't know who's going to start at center. We don't have there's no heir apparent there. But Nick Saldivari, 6'6", 307, he's one of 15 offensive linemen on our roster, which is, that's a pretty solid number. And 7 of them are 300 pounds or more. And then we've got 2, Zach Kuntz, tight end, who's getting some All-American mention. He led all tight ends in the country in receiving last year. And Ollie Jennings, III, transfer from West Virginia. So between them, they caught 135 of ODU's 245 pass receptions last year. So,
Harry, defenses around the country trying to keep up with offenses. How about Old Dominion defensively, and what kind of resistance are they going to present to opponents this year?
We've got some depth problems, especially along the defensive line. I don't think that's a secret. We lost some good players, but Linebacker Ryan Henry is really good. I think he was third in tackles last year. Archerium Johnson, defensive back, was second in tackles. So we've got a lot of tacklers back. And then the guy who was fourth in tackling, I think, is a future superstar. His name is Jason Henderson. Played as a true freshman last year. The guy is just, you look at him. When he first walked on campus, I saw him the first day, and I said, is this a GQ guy or what? I mean, he is just muscular as he can be. Really smart kid. I think he's gonna play a lot this year. Marcus Haynes, a defensive end, is really good. The thing that I like about Archer, and I was talking to Eric Bohannon, our sports information director here, he's a JUCO transfer and from Mississippi Gulf Coast College. And JUCOs, they never want a red shirt. And, as Eric was saying, but he redshirted and, and he played. He doesn't say a lot, but he plays very hard and very well. But we do have some holes on defense that we've got to fill. And by the way, recruiting is not over. ODU still has offers out. As you know, the age of the portal, recruiting is 12 months a year now. You have offers out.
Harry Minium joining us talking ODU football, and if you said 5-10 years ago, whatever, that you're joining the Sun Belt, well, I don't know if that's reason to throw a party, but now it is. I mean, you look at maybe the most underrated football league in America. It is the Sun Belt with teams like Appalachian State. We know firsthand about Georgia State, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana. Troy has been good in years past. So this schedule, Harry, with the conference, and then you look non-conference, Old Dominion has East Carolina sandwiched in between a home game against Virginia Tech, which is Charlottesville, to take on Virginia. I mean, that schedule is, I don't know, is this the toughest they've ever seen there in Norfolk? It looks tough.
And then we're playing Liberty, too.
Yeah.
So, that's actually we're playing all 4 in-state FBS teams, which is kind of cool, but also a huge challenge. It's just because, James Madison is part of our Sun Belt schedule. But, I wrote a column when the Sun Belt announced that Southern Miss, Marshall, ODU, and James Madison were joining the Sun Belt was the school that won the off-season. I can't quite think of the term he used, but all the exchange of teams.
Yeah.
They won. It's just a really good league, and for Old Dominion, there are a lot of benefits. In Conference USA, I remember last year, I was in Norfolk. I had my 50th high school reunion when they played at Marshall. It's a pretty good game, Marshall, Old Dominion, and it was on Facebook. And, this year, all of our games are going to be on ESPN Plus or an ESPN network. 2 of the first 3, or one is going to be on the ACC network and the other on ESPNU, and then the ECU game on ESPN Plus. That's just a huge benefit for us. And the schedule is, there are no gimmies on the schedule. Our non-conference foes are at South Alabama and Arkansas State here, and although Arkansas State wasn't very good last year, they've traditionally had a really good program. I tell you what the Sun Belt did was smart. We all remember Britt Banowski, and, we're Conference USA, we're going to go get these TV markets. And the Sun Belt said, we're going to go out and get the best football programs we can with the best fan bases. And guess who won? The Sun Belt.
Yeah.
You got App State, no TV market, but you've played them before. Their fan base is massive. Coastal, the same thing. And
what a refreshing thing that was, too, right, Harry? I mean, you think back to the 90s and early 2000s when all this realignment was going on. It was all about where is your school located, more so than, how many games have you won? How good is your program? And it's good to see kind of common sense win out in that case.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm not sure that the AAC should have gone as far as they did in taking teams from Conference USA. I think there's some of them that they don't have the facilities and don't have the budget to really compete in. They can compete in football because that's where they spend their money, but in the other sports, baseball and basketball and those sorts of things, we'll have to see. And the AAC is a great league, and that was a great move for East Carolina to move there. But as you know, change is ever present. Who knows when Memphis might or someone else might get a nod from a Power 5.
Yeah, Harry Minium joining us. Harry, we're previewing the East Carolina position groups. We did quarterbacks last week, and one of my questions to everyone was the best performance you've seen by an opposing quarterback against East Carolina. And our producer Chandler, and a lot of the answers came with losses. At least when this came with a win, but it was a spectacular performance by Taylor Heineke at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. I'm a Washington fan, so Taylor almost gave me a memory of a lifetime beating Tom Brady in the playoffs. He had Brady and the Bucks on the ropes a couple years ago, so I've enjoyed watching Taylor. He's a really fun player and has put up some good numbers. Do you ever see him around Norfolk anymore?
Oh yeah, Taylor comes. He doesn't come back a lot, but when he does, he'll usually call. Yeah, I mean everyone. Let me tell you a story about Taylor. You're talking about that Tom Brady playoff game where the Bucks went on to win the Super Bowl, and this was the closest game they had in their march to the Super Bowl, to the playoffs. He threw for 306 yards, a touchdown, ran for 46 yards, another touchdown, had that diving touchdown pylon. He was, millions of people were introduced to Taylor Heineke, and the next day, I need to reach him to do a Taylor Heineke story, and I'm thinking, damn. He's got everyone in the world after him. He won't have time for me. So I texted him and said, hey, Taylor, this is Harry. Do you have a minute? 30 seconds later, he calls back, and he says, yes, I do.
Wow.
Said, just a couple of minutes. He says, take all the time in the world. You were there when I started. I don't forget those who were with me in the beginning. And that's Taylor. He's one of these kids who, he doesn't let success go to his head. He had a tough childhood. Some things we've written about, and some things we haven't, and that made him that made him tough. He's a tough kid, and he's a great kid.
That's awesome to hear. Harry Minium joining us today, talking ODU football, past and present. Harry, I really enjoyed the chat. We'll try to reconvene with you in September, the week of East Carolina ODU. It was a fun one last time they got on the field, and should be another fun one coming up this September. But enjoy your summer, Harry, and we'll reconvene with you coming up this fall.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoyed it, Harry. There's Harry Minium joining us from Old Dominion, senior executive writer with ODU and ODU Athletics. Again, was with the Virginian Pilot, he said, for 39 years, I believe. So he has been in the business a long time, and now has, it sounds like his favorite job, just writing for Old Dominion Athletics. And looking forward to that game. They how about two different football teams from the last time they met in 2019? East Carolina eking out a road win against a one-win team that year, Old Dominion. This year we're going to get a bowl team versus a bowl team at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. So sounds like two pretty good head coaches in Ricky Ronnie, and of course we know what we got in Mike Houston. So that'll be a fun one coming up week 2 at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. Let's take a time out.